Coming to the third prelude, this one is written in second person and is speaking directly to you. You is the subject with a soul. You is the subject who has been awake at night with insomnia, and the setting has sexual connotations, and critics have read this character as a prostitute. You tossed a blanket from the bed, you lay upon your back and waited, you dozed and watched the night revealing 1,000 sordid images of which your soul was constituted. They flickered against the ceiling, and when all the world came back and light crept up between the shutters, and you heard the sparrows in the gutters, you had such a vision of the street as the street hardly understands, sitting along the bed's edge where you curl the papers from your hair or clasp the yellow soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands. You tossed a blanket from the bed. The setting is that the soul of a woman lying on bed on her back and waiting for someone, probably waiting for a customer. As she dozed, or she's just had the customer, and watched the night revealing 1,000 images. As she was not able to sleep, she was lying on her back looking at the ceiling, and there were 1,000 images flashing, 1,000 sordid images flashing on her mind. As they flickered against the ceiling, the world came back when she's jolted back to reality in the morning. There was some light which crept up between the shutters, and you heard the sparrows in the gutters. In poetry, usually flowers and birds and all bring to mind the lively images, the beauty, the happiness around, the chirping of the birds, the sparrows. But here you have the sparrows in the gutters. Look at the urban setting. The sparrows can find place only in the gutters. This woman had the vision of the street as the street hardly understands. This is again a personification, and it reminds us of the sawdust trampled street of the second prelude. The street is dumb, the street can hardly understand. She's sitting along the bed's edge where you curl the papers from your hair. She's still wondering, she's still in a trance. She is removing the papers used to curl her hair in the night, or she clasped the yellow soles of the feet. It's the yellow sole of the feet, symbol of nervousness, again symbol of sordid, dirty, sad, anemic, or clasp the yellow soles of the feet in the palms of both soiled hands. Even the hands are dirty. This sympathetic, imaginative gesture is granting this woman a soul with the vision. There is this vision. When she looks up at the ceiling, these thoughts come to her mind, the thoughts of how she spent that evening, perhaps a part of that night, and unable to sleep at her distress, she's been dreaming. These She's been dreaming without sleeping. Coming to the last prelude, this also describes a soul, probably the soul of a man this time. His soul stretched tight across the skies that fade behind the city block, or trampled by incessant feet at 4 and 5 and 6 o'clock, and short square fingers stuffing pipes, and evening newspapers, and eyes assured of certain certainties, the conscience of a blackened street, impatient to assume the world. The soul is stretched and trampled. That is, it is full of discomfort. It's the soul of a man, that is the street. It has been trampled by incessant feet at 4 and 5 and 6 because of the coming and going of people, and short square fingers stuffing pipes and evening newspapers, and eyes assured of certain certainties. Look at the eyes. The eyes only are assured of certain certainties, not certainties, just a few certainties. Nobody is sure. Nobody has a specific aim. Nobody has a mission. There's just this blank wandering. I am moved by the fancies that are curled around these images and cling the notion of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. Wipe your hands across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots. The poet again changes his voice to the first person and makes it very personal. He says, I am moved by the fancies that are curled around these images and cling. That is, he is affected by all these fancies, by all these imagery around, and he himself is nervous. He is describing a way a particular human imagination works. There are these sordid images. Images come first, but fancies embrace these images. Some infinite suffering thing. What does he imagine? He can only imagine of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. There is suffering, there is grief, there is desperation all around. Wipe your hand. Now, he tries to get off all this. He says, wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots. He says, it's okay now. Wipe off your hands of all this. Let's get jolted back to reality. Whatever has happened has to be shunned. Women here, by mentioning ancient women, Women, and that too gathering fuel. But they are gathering fuel from where? From the vacant lots. They need something to burn, to light. Women are representations of the cycle of life because they have the ability to give birth. But they are trying to gather some substance, gather some fuel. They are trying to get something from the empty space in the city, that is the vacant lots. There is nothing real substance here. The world is devoid of spirituality. It is a meaningless existence. Thus, the poem ends in despair. You see, the street in this prelude could also refer to this mundane world, looked upon as an object of suffering because it is insistently stampled, and there is Christ in heaven watching the street being trampled like this. There is this slight religious reference coming in here, but if you take it in the present context, you'd find it's the soul. The street has been personified as a male, and the soul of the street is stretched along and is trampled continuously and is filthy. There are stuffing pipes, evening newspapers, and people walking who are not sure of anything. It is the street. The street is the blackened street. The conscience of the blackened street is ready to take on the world. This is evening. So take on the world the next day. The poet finally says that it makes him, it moves him. All these images cling together and they come in as images of infinitely suffering things, and the poet is jolted back to reality. He says, come on, wipe off your hands, forget it, start laughing, because the world has taken on a quick pace. The world revolves like ancient women. Ancient women find solution to everything. Like if there's nothing, they find some wood to burn and to cook from vacant lots. Similarly, the world is ready to take on things as they are. This desperation, this sordid image after image makes the poem a truly great one. So that's the end of Preludes Part 4, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. Coming to the structure of the poem, there is this, it almost reads as 4 poems rather than 1. And the 4 parts are also uneven, they are irregular, written in free verse. They are symptomatic of the speaker's stream of consciousness. It is as it comes from within. See, part 1 has 13 lines, part 2 has 10 lines, part 3 has 15 lines, part 4 has 16 lines. There's no coordination in these lines too, and they were written at different times. It is believed that the fourth prelude was added much later. The images in the first stanza of the prelude sets the context of the rest of the poem. You see the images, grimy scraps, withered leaves, newspapers, broken blinds, chimney pots, dingy, littered. These are all words and adjectives which describe the city, the dingy city. The second stanza, where morning comes to consciousness, this has smells of beer, there is this hangover, the narrator thinks of all the hands that are raising the dingy shades, there are the furnished rooms, and the last three lines, there is the sense of anonymity in numbers, dirty vulgarity, and impermanence. In the third stanza, there is an actual character of a person. Person belongs to low urbanity, the soul of this you who is constituted of 1,000 sordid images, and they are yellow, they are soiled, and they describe the sordid city life. The poem has been read as a condemnation of modernity, specifically that of urban life. It mainly highlights the boredom of life with allusions to prostitutes and other grimy scenes to further enhance the disorienting nature of the world in such a time. There are several literary devices used in this poem. I have listed a number of them and I'll go on to explain them briefly. You have the speaker or the narrator and the point of view. The speaker is an omniscient speaker. He changes the person. Sometimes it's the first person, sometimes the third person, sometimes the second person. The form and meter are fragmented. There are metaphors and similes used in abundance. You have the smoky days. You have ancient women. Then there is a lot of alliteration and assonance. You see the B's and the S's, which I have pointed out when I have done each of the line by line explanations of the preludes. Beat, broken, blinds, and the SSSS. Then there is a lot of irony and comment on the modern world. The yarner is total modern poetry. The setting can be any unspecified modern city. It's the same everywhere. The tone is melancholic, alienated, messianic, cynical. There is a protagonist and antagonist where the soul is there, the personifications, morning and evening. There is major conflict, there is religious imagination, and there is this dismissive despair which comes at the end. Oh, leave it, oh, forget it. There is allusion to Christ who's in the sky and who is also a symbol of suffering. But The street has been personified here as this soul. There is metonymy and synecdoche. There's the muddy feet, all the hands. Look at the lines in the poem. There is personification of evening and morning, which recurs again and again. There is hyperbole. You see, in 1,000 furnished rooms, lights coming up in 1,000 furnished homes, the blinds going up. There is this hyperbole also. So here is a very uh, elaborate list of the literary devices used in this poem. Coming to a few questions. How does Prelude bind as one poem? At first instance, you will feel that it's four poems, but what is that unifying element which binds it as one poem? What does the street represent in Preludes? Write a note on the literary devices used in Preludes. Give a short summary of each of the prelude. That will complete the understanding, the detailed understanding of this poem. Thank you. Hope you made the most of it. Read the poem, go through the recording again and again, see if you can understand the poem, and once you understand, you will truly appreciate the caliber of T.S. Eliot. Thank you.